Hi, quick story for you. So I am 10 years old at the time. It's a beautiful Monday morning and I'm on my way to school. Suddenly I noticed an altercation nearby involving a taxi driver and five soldiers who were clearly angry with him, with the taxi driver. Anyway, the driver was in his car and the windows were all wound up, all the doors locked, and he gripped onto his steering wheel just as the angry soldiers were trying to force the taxi door open so that they could get the taxi driver out of the car. And I can only imagine they wanted to beat him up. Because this was typical in the city I grew up in. You never want to get in a road rage situation with the men in uniform. What made that incident memorable for me was the look on the taxi driver's face. It was one of hopeless resignation to an unknown fate, one that promised a lot of pain and misery. At that moment, I vowed to myself never to allow that kind of oppressive treatment come anywhere near me. Not from anyone, visible or invisible. About 7 years later, I enlisted into the army because I thought the uniform would protect me. In a way it did, but not the way that mattered the most. I left the army less than 3 years later. Hi, my name is Toluola Falashe, and this is the Berean Workshop. So, while the uniform gave me a level of protection once I joined the army, and a sense of power, a sense of being above the average citizen, I was still open to other kinds of oppressive treatments. And I knew that wasn't the answer. So in the book of Luke chapter 4 verse 18, Jesus read these words from Isaiah 61 verse 1. He said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." If I could go back in time, I would stop those angry soldiers from harassing that taxi driver, and I'll give him the good news. The good news that in Jesus Christ, there is liberty for the captives. That is freedom for those in spiritual, mental, and emotional captivity who think that others, just because they wear uniforms, are better than them. I would give that taxi driver the good news that in Christ, there is recovery of sight to the blind, especially those of us blind of our true identities, where God's masterpiece, his best work yet. I'll give that taxi driver the good news that in Jesus Christ there is liberty for those who are oppressed. Remember, liberty starts from within, from inside. It begins by knowing who we are, where we've come from. And I'm not talking about geography here, no. I'm talking about our true origin. We are created beings loved by our Maker. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that being in Christ doesn't necessarily prevent that taxi driver from getting the beating from those angry soldiers. No. But one thing is for sure, that terrified look on his face, the terror in his eyes, I believe would have been softened just by the realization that Jesus is nearby, and the terror on the outside doesn't mean hopeless resignation to oppressors. People, let us protect ourselves by taking refuge in God. We need to draw close to him more than ever before. If you want to know more, get in touch with us. Leave a comment below and we'll get back to you. Thank you for listening and keep the oppression out. Bye for now.